Hello! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another tier ranking video with all the World Cup countries. This time we're going to be going over every country's attack. Now, obviously, I base this on every country's designated forwards. There are a few examples of players that drop down to left and right mid, but depending on if the country decides to utilize a different formation, they could play as wingers. So try to keep that in mind. I'll incorporate that throughout the video, but yeah, leave an early like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, let me know any disagreements you have with this list in the comments below. Let's get into it, starting off with the hosts, Qatar. Now, everybody seems to be writing off the hosts in one way or another, but their attack is actually pretty admirable. First up, you got one of their best players, Almoez Ali. In 72 appearances, he's got 39 goals for the national team. He's only 25 years old as well. There's also the captain, Hassan Al-Haidos, loads of experience, 31 years old, 33 goals, 6 shy of Almoez Ali. And then you've got the winger AAvfx, who has a similar amount of appearances as Almoez Ali and has 23 goals to his name. But this guy's also quite the playmaker. He grabs loads of assists. I'm curious to see how that partnership could possibly work between him and Almoez Ali. It's going to be a very exciting attack to watch at the World Cup. However, I don't know if they could rank compared to these other national teams. It's a bit tricky to place them now, obviously, since we're starting off with them, but I'm going to say that they are C material. They're definitely not at the bottom. Some people may suggest just because they play domestically, they haven't heard of these players that much. Doesn't mean they're all the way at the bottom. I definitely still think the attack out of all the positions for Qatar can prove themselves at the World Cup. Maybe they can bring some high scoring affairs. Who knows? It's going to be tough in their group. They're coming up against a lot of tough teams, but I'm going to say they're C material in their attack. Now for Ecuador, possibly the youngest squad going into the World Cup, although one of their more well-known strikers is a veteran for the national team, Valencia. 35 goals in 72 appearances, currently playing for Fenerbahce. They also got Estrada, who plays for DC United. Although DC United's recent results are nothing to show off for, he does pretty well for the national team. He has 8 goals at the moment in 34 appearances. You've also got the likes of Gonzalo Plata, who can play as a winger. Lots of Ecuadorians are saying he's a very underrated option. Many other options. Look, Ecuador, to be honest, don't look great on paper in terms of their attack, but they've proved themselves in the World Cup qualifiers, haven't they? Some of their matches did end up going to high scoring, so I can't leave them at the bottom to D. I'm going to put them in the same ranking as Qatar, at C. I know some people might not be happy with the answer, but again, comparing to the other teams, I don't think Ecuador's attack is necessarily a strong suit, although they will be a massive underdog going into this World Cup. They have all the potential to prove themselves in this group. I'm saying they are at the C ranking. Moving on to Senegal. Obviously, a very recognizable attack with Sadio Mane up there. You already know this side can definitely cause damage in this tournament. We'll see how he adapts at Bayern Munich this season, but I'm not too worried. I think he'll do just fine. Has proved himself over the years countless times for Liverpool. He's one of the best forwards in the World Cup, no question. You've also got Sarr from Watford. Although Watford did get relegated, this guy was one of their most electric players on the pitch, and obviously has done quite a bit of damage for the national team with 10 goals. And then for the actual center forward option, it's all up for grabs unless they decide to put Sadio Mane there. There is Diedhiou, who plays in the Turkish league. He's got 10 goals to his name in 24 appearances. But then there's also Dia on Villarreal, who's a very solid option himself. Underrated option Diallo, who plays for Strasbourg. Oh, and you can't forget about the winger Keita Balde, who maybe didn't live up to the hype, but still, very solid option up top. This is actually a tough one to decide. Like I said in many videos, Senegal are the most stacked team in Africa on paper. Their attack is obviously one of those strong points with the likes of Sadio Mane. And although there are a lot of other solid options up top, are they enough to all bring Senegal to an S? Obviously, Sadio Mane is S material, but the attack as a whole, will it rank up to an S compared to the other teams in this video? It's a tough call. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on this, but I'm going to say Senegal are A material, just shy from an S. Now for Netherlands. This is a very exciting attack with some quality players. Memphis Depay with 42 goals in 80 appearances. Bergwijn with a lot of clutch goals for the national team. The giant Wout Weghorst. Netherlands is also another interesting pick because this attack is great, don't get me wrong, but is it really the same compared to that 2010 runners-up World Cup squad? In my opinion, I think the likes of Robin van Persie and Iron Robin were a lot better than this bunch now. They still should be confident with the options they have, But it's interesting because back then the Dutch defense wasn't as good. It seems like now they shifted that balance because now the defense is looking a lot better. The attack is still great, just a little bit weaker than before. Back in the day, I would have given Netherlands the S without a doubt, but I'm going to say for this video, they are A material. 2 A's and 2 C's so far for Group A. Let's move on to Group B, starting off with England. Immediate player that comes to mind is their captain, Harry Kane, with 50 goals for the national team in 73 appearances. That is mad. You've also got the likes of Raheem Sterling, who didn't get that many goals, obviously, but he had so many clutch ones in the Euros in particular, especially in the group stage. If Harry Kane's not fit, they can still rely on the likes of Tammy Abraham, who was fantastic for Roma last season. He got 17 goals and 4 assists in the Serie A and got 9 goals in the Conference League, being the top goal scorer in that tournament. You've got exciting youngsters like Saka and Phil Foden, who have been proving themselves in the Premier League. There are so many talking points about England. You can go on and on about the depth they have. I know I didn't mention everybody, which is why I'm giving them an easy yes. They have a lot of options up top, and if certain players aren't fit, I think they'll be okay with their reserve and substitute options. Now for Iran, I said in other videos, the partnership between Taremi and Azmoun could be very deadly. Last season for Porto in the Portuguese league, Taremi was able to grab 20 goals and 13 assists in 32 appearances. We still have yet to see Azmoun properly shine in the Bundesliga, but his previous numbers at Zenit were also spectacular, which is why so many clubs are after him in the January transfer window. You've also got the wonder kid Alayar Said Manesh on Hull City, who had a great spell for Zoya Luhansk. I actually asked you guys this on my community page, where would you rank Iran's attack? And so many of you said B, which I'm going to heavily disagree with. I think Iran's strong point is their attack at the moment. The national team is obviously in a mess at the moment. They just sacked Dragan Skocic. We'll see what happens there if Carlos Queiroz makes his return. But if he comes back, we all know the counter-attacking football Iran will play at the World Cup, and they can definitely utilize those deadly strikers that they have. I want to even be generous and say S, but I'm going to go with A. I think Iran is an A material team in terms of their attack. You definitely got to praise the players they have. Some of them have been proving it for many seasons now for the United States, you've obviously got the LeBron James of soccer, Christian Pulisic. Some people arguing him to be their best player on the national team. On the other side, you got Timothy Weah, possibly the U.S. men's national team most underrated player. He's much more consistent than their other options. Gio Reyna, who can play on the wing. They try to utilize the likes of Ricardo Pepi, who is now on Augsburg, but so far he hasn't been too great. We got to keep in mind, though, he's only 19 years old. Still has time to improve. Is falling under that pressure a bit. Gotta cut him some slack for sure. But now recently there's also another youngster on the cards, Ferreira, who's gotten 7 goals for the national team in 13 appearances. Not as big of a name as Pepe since he's still in the MLS, but he still has scored loads of goals in the USA. In the MLS this season so far, he has 11 goals and 4 assists in 19 appearances. So if he continues to shine, maybe he could be the answer for that center forward option. His confidence seems to be booming at the moment. I think the USA, in terms of their attack, can be deadly. As long as they stay consistent, I'm going to say that they are B material. They have the potential to shine, but they're not all the way there. Let's move on to Wales now. Obviously, the biggest name that comes to mind is Gareth Bale. This guy is so clutch for the national team, it is ridiculous. Now that he's signed for LAFC, he's going to continue to get practice before the World Cup begins. His debut in the World Cup, he's going to try to make it a big one. We all know that. I can't see this lad not scoring 1 or 2 goals at least, minimum. But the best part is there's still a lot of other great options. There's the likes of Daniel James, Gilford Moore, who's a very clutch player for club and country. But now there's an exciting youngster climbing the ranks, Brennan Johnson, who was spectacular in the championship. 21-year-old forward for Nottingham Forest. We'll see how he does in the Premier League this season. He is without a doubt a player to watch at the World Cup. Call me crazy all you want, but I think Wales deserve a high ranking for this video. I'm giving them an A. They got the experience and the new talent climbing the ranks. We'll see how well they can impress at the World Cup. Now for Argentina. Let's not waste any time and put them in the S category. Come on. First of all, they've got a GOAT in there. They've got one of the most underrated players in world football, Angel Di Maria, just signed for Juventus. A phenomenal striker in the Serie A, Lautaro Martinez. If any of them are not fully fit, no problem. Julian Alvarez will seal the deal. This is one of the easiest S's you can choose in the video. Argentina have been in S tier for so long as well. In the past, they had the likes of Agüero and Higuain. I know Higuain got a lot of stick in the past, but still, you can't ignore Argentina's class up top. S any day of the week. I'm not going to get into the specific numbers for the players at the moment, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Now for Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, I gotta give them a D. The first D in the video. Saudi Arabia, in my opinion, are not praised for their attack. There are the likes of Firas Al-Borekan, who's climbing the ranks, just 22 years old at the moment. There's also Saleh Al-Shehri with 8 goals for the national team in 16 appearances. But to me, Saudi Arabia's defense and midfield is looking more solidified than their attack. And compared to all the other teams in this video, I think they're a D. Sorry to say. Now for Mexico. Lots of big name players actually. Raul Jimenez being one of them. Corona on Sevilla. Alexis Vega. Lozano on Napoli. Don't get me wrong, these are all some top players, but it's interesting because with the current management at the moment from Tata Martino, they don't seem to blossom. Mexico's attack looked a lot deadlier in the past with the likes of Chicharito and Carlos Vela. On paper, you can argue that Mexico deserve an A, but I don't think they've been proving themselves. Also, those big name players haven't been at their best lately. Raul Jimenez, for example, doesn't look the same as before. Sorry, Mexico. You could hate me for this because I'm putting you at the same level as USA. You can argue that Mexico is better than USA in the attack, maybe in some ways, but I see them being in the same tier for now. I still don't think B is a bad ranking, though. Now for Poland, obviously, Robert Lewandowski is one of the best strikers in the world. 76 goals for the national team in 132 appearances. That should be automatically putting Poland at an S, but what about their other options? They got the likes of Piatek, who some people argue is a one-season wonder, but he's had his moments for the national team. There's also Milik, who's played for a lot of big clubs, currently on Marseille right now with 16 goals for the national team. And then there's the underrated MLS gem, Świderski, who plays for Charlotte FC. He's only had 16 appearances for the national team and he already has 7 goals. I'm gonna say Poland do deserve the S. Lewandowski obviously carries that rating, but the other options that they have at striker as well can form a solid partnership if Michnovic figures out some proper tactics. Now for France. Yeah, France are not going lower than an S in any single video. I'm sorry, come on. They have debatably 2 of the best strikers in the world at the moment. Kylian Mbappe and Karim Benzema. Mbappe with 28 goals and 19 assists in 35 appearances in the French league. In the Champions League, he got 6 goals and 6 assists in 8 appearances. Benzema, currently the favorite for many to win the Ballon d'Or, got 27 goals and 12 assists in 32 appearances in La Liga. And in the Champions League, he got 15 goals and 2 assists in 12 appearances. That is mad. You've also got the likes of Christopher Nkunku. We'll see where he ends up playing, but he can be an attacking option. He was one of the most informed players last season as well. The lad got 20 goals and 15 assists in 34 appearances in the Bundesliga. I'm sorry, but this could be the easiest S I'm choosing in this video. Now for the mighty Denmark. I've been praising this side a lot. How is their attack looking, though? I'm pretty sure I've been giving them an A in all the other videos. In this one, I'm going to say they're B material, though. Don't mean to offend the Danish people. I still think B is a solid ranking, but look. The Danish side as a whole is a very collective and solid unit, as I've mentioned, but the attackers individually might not be up to par compared to the rest of the team. Martin Braithwaite, Skolvossen on Club Brugge, Damsgaard, a criminally underrated player who always shines for the national team. Cornelius has been proving his worth in the Nations League recently. Poulsen on Leipzig, Kasper Dolberg. Some of these players aren't huge when it comes to club level, but then for the national team, they just turn up. In the World Cup qualifiers, they scored a whopping 30 goals. The only teams to score more than them were England, Germany, and the Netherlands. Now for Tunisia. Interesting team, because in the past, it seems like they were trying to play more defensively, be more conservative, attack many times, didn't shine. But then in their recent friendlies, they were able to beat Japan 3-0 and Chile 2-0. And it's also hard to analyze because Tunisia seemed to be changing their attack squad. I've not seen Khazri in the recent lineup himself, and to me, he was one of their best players on the national team. It's a tough one, but the fact that Tunisia are bringing some underrated options, and in these recent friendlies, they're looking a bit deadlier up top, I'm going to give them a C for this video. Now for Australia. I will allow them to join Saudi Arabia in the D category. Sorry, Aussies. Sure, you got the likes of Our Mabil, who is a very pacey player who has just joined Cadiz in Spain. Then there's also the legend Matthew Lecquier, who has had a lot of experience in Europe. Jamie McLaren, also not a bad shout. But like I said, Australia seemed to be struggling in those qualifier matchups, and I don't know if the attack was much to show off for. Australia, I'm really rooting for you in your World Cup group, but I'm going to have to give you a D. I'm sorry. Now for Spain. Oh man, I'm going to get some hate for this now. I'm going to give them a B. I think I gave Spain S and A for the other positions, but in the attack, they're not looking as deadly to me. Obviously, fingers being pointed to Alvaro Morata, who Enrique seems to be still counting on. Sure, he scored some clinical goals, but he is a very inconsistent striker. But what about the other positions? Sure, there's the likes of Ferran Torres, who does pull through for the national team, obviously. Ansu Fati, just 19 years old. Hopefully, he'll be fit for the World Cup. And they still got a lot of depth to rely on. Gerard Moreno, Traore, Rodrigo, Oyarzabal, Asensio, Sarabia coming in clutch for the national team. But even when Spain did have some veteran strikers like Fernando Torres and David Villa, the team was still criticized for not being a side to score a lot of goals. Yeah, they won the World Cup in 2010, but they really broke it down narrowly in many matches. Not discrediting the Spanish side whatsoever. A phenomenal side, but I don't think the attack is their strong point. I'm sorry to say. B is still obviously a good ranking. It just doesn't look good in this video because they're such a top side. It's weird to see them with the USA and Mexico. But nevertheless, all love to Spain. Now for Germany, there is some criticism for this national team as well that they don't have a solid striker to rely on, as Werner can also be inconsistent, but the other attackers have still been crucial. Thomas Muller, Leroy Sané, Serge Gnabry, and you can still stick in the likes of Kai Havertz at that striker role if you really wanted to. That number 9 inconsistent role might leave some people doubtful for the German attack, but I still think they pull through brilliantly at moments. Sure, you can say Germany is an easy yes, but I do think there's a bit of a gap in the attack, similar to Spain. Maybe they're a tad bit better off with their other positions like their wingers. So I'm going to say Germany are an A for this video. Now for Japan. You got strikers like Takuma Sano playing in the Bundesliga. 2 strikers currently playing for Celtic, Furuhashi and Maeda. At winger, you got the likes of Ito, who grabbed loads of assists in the Belgian league. Mitoma, who just signed for Brighton. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like those winger options mostly play in the midfield in Japan's formation. So with that all being said, the forward options they have, I'm going to say are a C ranking compared to the other teams in this video. Japan's midfield, though, is pretty underrated and can be very deadly at the World Cup. Now for Costa Rica, a lot of their forwards are actually veterans for the national team. Joel Campbell, this guy used to play for Arsenal. Johan Venegas, who's already 33. All these players do have some legacy and love to turn up for the national team. I do think they're past their prime. I'm putting Costa Rica at D. I don't mean to be harsh. We could see that 2014 miracle breakout and I look like an absolute idiot. But their forward options they have now, I don't think are as sublime compared to the rest of these teams. Now for Belgium, a very interesting one to analyze, as you got the likes of Romelu Lukaku, who didn't have the best season at Chelsea, yet still you can't take away how consistent he's been for the national team. 68 goals in 102 appearances. He's back with his beloved Inter Milan, and while he was there, he got a whopping 24 goals and 10 assists in 36 appearances. At the center forward position, you still got Benteke and Origi. You have young talent like De Ketelaere and Jeremy Doku, who can definitely have an impact in the attack. Eden Hazard, obviously not at his prime, but he still looks determined to give it his all for the national team. Dries Mertens with a beautiful legacy for Napoli. Batshuayi on Besiktas with 25 goals and 45 appearances for the national team. Say what you want about Belgium, but I still think their attack is very potent, even if some of their players may be a tad bit washed up. I think they deserve an S. Now for Croatia. This is the one position I think Croatia might be screwed in. Defense is actually looking even more promising than the World Cup 2018. Midfield, always phenomenal. The attack, though, is just frustrating to watch. Kramaric is not a bad player, but can be a bit inconsistent. Still haven't seen Orsic make a solid impact for the national team. Josip Brekalo could be better. Depending on the formation, Ivan Perisic is a winger option. He's definitely a phenomenal player, but I am counting on him to be more of a midfield option. We'll see where he ends up playing, but he might be our only hope in the attack if he's put there. At the moment, Zlatko Dalic in the center forward position has been putting on Budimir. And if you guys have been tuning into my live streams, you already know how much I've been ripping on this guy. Not only is he a pretty slow player, he's very slow in decision making, makes terrible decisions on the pitch. He could have scored us some easy goals in the Nations League and just simply failed to do so. Yes, he helped us win that penalty against France, but that's his only contribution in recent times so far. If this lad plays for us at the World Cup, I simply don't have high hopes for our attack. The good news is there's still the likes of Levi, who always seems to be injured in recent times, but he had a phenomenal season in the Croatian League last season, grabbing 28 goals and 7 assists in 34 appearances. There's also the likes of Musa, who has yet to make an appearance to the national team so far, but he just signed for Benfica and is looking like a promising player. Look, at the moment with what I've seen for Croatia, we rely too much on our midfield to make the difference in these matches. The attack itself doesn't pull through enough. I want to see how Livaya does, without a doubt. I think he can make a difference eventually, but I haven't seen in recent times yet. I'm going to have to give Croatia a C for this video. It pains me to say, I got to be critical for Croatia. I gave them an S for the midfield video. They've improved their defense a lot. If I made that video later on, I would have given them a higher ranking. For the striker role right now, I'm not too convinced. But that's my thoughts for now. Budimir heavily weighs us down. If Zlatko Dalic keeps starting him, we might be screwed. Now for Morocco. With the current manager Halil Hodzic, they're missing out on their best attacker, Ziyech. This man could have been such a difference for Morocco, so without his presence, Morocco's ranking definitely goes down for me. Don't get me wrong, they have some exciting players like En-Nesyri, Boufal, who's currently on Angers, but Morocco's attack, in my opinion, is a bit too inconsistent and relies on other positions sometimes to score the goals. I'm going to have to give Morocco a C, along with Croatia for now. If Ziyech were there, though, I definitely would be giving them a higher ranking. Now for Canada. The partnership many people are counting on seeing is Kyle Larin and Jonathan David. Both each have over 20 goals for the national team, and Kyle Larin was the top goal scorer for the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers. There's also underrated options like Lucas Cavallini, who has 17 goals for the national team in 32 appearances. Based on how Canada have been doing lately, you would think they're potentially immaterial, but we still haven't seen this side come up against many other teams around the world. It's mostly just been CONCACAF. You still got Jonathan David, though, proving his worth in Europe. 15 goals in the French league last season. This could change later on, but for now, I'm going to give Canada a B because I still think they have to prove themselves against these top teams, but without a doubt, they should be very excited for the attackers that they possess. Now for Brazil, there's way too many forward options, obviously. Richarlison, Neymar, Gabriel Jesus, Rafinha, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Firmino, plus many more. I don't think I need to go too in-depth with Brazil. They have so many quality options. Most of these players had phenomenal seasons, and I think Brazil definitely deserve an S. Now for Serbia, we all know about their phenomenal striker options, such as Dusan Vlahovic, who equaled Ronaldo's goal-scoring record in a single calendar year in the Serie A. Mitrovic, who broke the championship record for most goals scored just halfway over through the season. Jovic, who is looking to find his form yet again as he's just signed for Fiorentina, and we all know the relationships between Serbian strikers and Fiorentina. I have belief that he'll shine yet again. Serbia have the depth in the striker position without a doubt, and I'm going to be giving them an S in this video. I think they fully deserve it. These strikers have been in phenomenal form last season, and without a doubt they can prove their class at the World Cup despite their tough group. Now for Switzerland, it's hard to ignore this side's attack as they were a huge contributor to that Euro win against France. We had the likes of Seferovic with that very early goal. We had their backup striker Gavranovic, who sealed the deal to equalize with France at the very end. There's also solid options like Embolo, Ruben Vargas, youngster climbing the ranks, Noah Okafor, Shaqiri if he decides to play up top. Maybe they don't have the most depth compared to the other teams, but they still have some, and they've proven their worth a decent amount of times. I'm going to say Switzerland are B material. Now for Cameroon, we've already seen the partnership between Vincent Aboubakar and Karl Toko Ekambi blossom in the Africa Cup of Nations. Karl Toko Ekambi, also a big name player, as he was the one to seal the deal against Algeria in the final match for the Africa World Cup qualifiers. They also got Choupo-Moting on Bayern Munich, a very solid mix and a very dangerous attack. Karl Toko Ekambi is in some solid form right now. Vincent Aboubakar might be somewhat past his prime, but still such a phenomenal striker. It's between A or B, depending on how generous I want to be. I'm going to go for B. I'm sorry. Now for Portugal, they're an S. Cristiano Ronaldo, the top goal scorer of all time internationally. Jota, Bernardo Silva if you want to use him up top. Joao Felix. Rafael Leao, incredible season with AC Milan. Andre Silva, depth and quality. Portugal are stacked in the attack without a doubt, and they are an easy S material team. Now for Ghana, it's a very interesting one because there's going to be a lot of new players coming in for the national team. In particular, Nketiah, Inaki, and Nico Williams will all be present for the squad. That definitely boosts Ghana's rating for me. We'll see how they end up doing for the national team though. Ghana still have yet to prove, but I definitely think they are B material for this video. Now for Uruguay, another easy S. Luis Suarez and Edison Cavani, two absolute veterans on the pitch. Darwin Núñez is going to be such a contributor as well. We'll see how he ends up doing at Liverpool with that hefty price tag. He was able to secure 26 goals in 28 appearances last season for Benfica in the Portuguese league. Pelistri, also an exciting youngster on Manchester United. Uruguay's attack has so much potential to be deadly at the World Cup, and on paper, they're without a doubt an S material type of team. And finally, for South Korea, obviously Heung-min Son immediately comes to mind. We will see if he ends up playing in the midfield or the attack, but without a doubt, he is an attacking option. I mean, he won the Golden Boot for the Premier League last season, joint winner with Mohamed Salah, and not to mention their other forward, Hwang Ui-jo, is also very underrated. Depending on where they utilize Son, I think South Korea do deserve an A for this video. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my final list. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe some of my picks are questionable, but you can debate for so much for many of these teams. Like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Boa noite.